Welcome back to State of the FBS. I'm Micah, and it is a very exciting weekend in college football. We have conference championships this Saturday. I've been looking forward to this for a while. There is an electric matchup in the Big Ten that we get to talk about and go through. I'm super excited. Forgive the slightly disheveled appearance right now in the middle of finals for college, and it'd be like that. So we are going to get into this one though, but do make sure if you enjoy the videos, do subscribe. I really appreciate it. But we're going to start with the Big Ten. Unlike college game day, we're focusing on the most important game of the week. Number 1, Ohio State. Number 2, Indiana. Both 12-0. This is going to be amazing. Is Ohio State as good as they've looked so far? This defense is nasty. They're allowing only about a touchdown per game. I believe it's 7.8 points per game, something stupid like that. They are incredible. There's NFL talent all over the place on this team, whether it's the offense with Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate, or the defense with guys like Arvell Reese, Caleb Downs, Sonny Styles. There's NFL players absolutely everywhere on this Ohio State defense, but this Indiana offense is unlike anything they have played so far this season. Ohio State's played some solid rushing attacks. Look at Michigan, and you'll say, didn't Ohio State completely handle Michigan? You're absolutely correct. They did. But Michigan also does not know what the forward pass is this season. They've really struggled to throw the ball. Indiana, not an issue. Fernando Mendoza, probable Heisman winner at this point, and definitely at least a finalist in my eyes. He has been awesome. He has the huge game-winning drive against Penn State. He's proven he can be clutch. So if you're Ohio State and you're going up against a team that can actually be dynamic in more than one way against you, does that give Ohio State an issue? I'm not entirely sure. They look so good. But for Indiana, Roman Hemby and Kalen Black both need to get going in this one. You need to be able to hurt Ohio State multiple different ways, then try to stretch the field, stress their secondary with Elijah Surratt and Amari Cooper, who have both been great so far this season. And Cooper had the ridiculous catch at the end of the Penn State game. I think that's the best catch I've seen all year in college football. Then on the defensive side for Indiana, they got some talent. Lewis Moore, Amari Farrell both have just great ball hawking ability, 5 and 4 interceptions respectively. D'Angelo Pons is another very good corner. Would have, I think, first-round NFL draft hype if he wasn't like 5'9" or whatever he's listed at. Short little guy, but very elite corner out there. Then on the defensive line, Elijah Hardy and Isaiah Jones both need to get after Julian Sayin, put him under some stress. The Ohio State offensive line, I wouldn't say is outstanding by any means. It's probably one of the weaker units on this team, actually, and that does not mean weak. That does not mean they are bad. But by 2025 Ohio State standards, that might be something you can look to exploit. As for the other side of the ball, for the Ohio State defense, can you rattle Carter Smith? Because he is a star left tackle for Indiana. If you can get by him, get him rattled, try to get to Mendoza's blind side, I think that's where you can maybe throw this Indiana passing attack off its game. And I don't think Indiana is capable of just running the ball down your throat and beating you if you're the Buckeyes. They have to be multifaceted. Indiana knows that. Curt Cignetti knows that. Also, how many points is Curt Cignetti worth in a game like this when you look at just the talent rosters versus the coaching? Because we know how good of a coaching staff that is at Indiana. This team has gotten so much better than they were last year, whereas Ohio State somehow has gotten better too, it seems, to this point. But has Ohio State hit their peak yet? Have we seen the best version of Ohio State? I know that sounds insane to say based off how they played so far this season, but were they holding back in some of these games? You look at Washington, not in exactly a blowout fashion win, but is that Ohio State holding something back there? Or did Washington actually limit their offense like that? I'm not sure. Most people aren't sure. That's why, even though this game, I think most people would take Ohio State, it is a bit of an unknown. That said, I am going with the Buckeyes too. I think that they are just too good. Until further notice, I think Ohio State is the best team in the country. I think Indiana will absolutely try to make their case for it on Saturday, but I think these two teams still end up as your 1 and 2 in the college football playoff, regardless of what happens. They are both so good. But down to Atlanta now for the SEC championship game. Number 3, Georgia. Number 9, Alabama. And when I make these videos, I go through and I have some bullet points for each game. And it may be stats that I think are important. It may be trends that I think could really make themselves known in these games. Some matchups that I think could be really exploited. I have one bullet point for this Georgia-Alabama game, and it simply says, will it continue? And that is in reference to Kirby Smart's struggles versus the Crimson Tide. Just one win over Alabama while the head coach of Georgia, granted, it was a national championship game, so you could argue that's maybe worth a little bit more, but still, Alabama just seems to have something on Kirby. I don't know if it's a mental thing. I'd be kind of surprised if it was, just because of how good of a coach Kirby Smart is, but will that dynamic continue on Saturday? I personally do not think so. I know Gunnar Stockton did not look the best versus Georgia Tech. Ty Simpson has not looked great either in recent weeks. The accuracy has kind of faded from both of these guys, but for Simpson, I think that's a much bigger issue because he doesn't have quite the improvisational ability that Gunnar Stockton does. Now, I'm not saying Ty Simpson can't get out and run. He can absolutely do that, but I think we've seen that be more of a strength for Stockton over the course of the full season so far to this point. So I do think that maybe slightly favors Georgia. However, I am not overly comfortable in either of these quarterbacks putting my team on their back to win the game right now. Now, if you had asked me that about Ty Simpson a month ago, absolutely, 1,000% give me Ty Simpson to go win this game, but just has looked off. The Oklahoma game was a struggle through 2 picks versus Eastern Illinois. The Iron Bowl was difficult for Simpson. And then you look at, as well, this Alabama defense in the Iron Bowl, they got shredded by Malcolm Simmons all night long. It felt like he was open nearly every play, had some huge plays as well, including one that was called back because of a hold, or it was an illegal formation, actually, excuse me. But Zach Branch for Georgia. Zachariah Branch is the exact talent profile of Malcolm Simmons, just up to 11. Everything that Malcolm Simmons can do, Zach Branch can do it, and can do it at a higher level. So if you're Alabama, I would be heavily concerned about what Zach Branch might do to this defense on Saturday. And as far as receivers go, where's Ryan Williams been all year? He has been anonymous for the Alabama offense. I have no idea why that's been the case. He was so good last year, and coming into this year, so much hype. It just has completely fallen flat. Jeremy Bernard has really been the number one guy. Horton's been good too. I think Josh Cuevas still being banged up and out is going to be a major issue for Alabama. That was really felt in the Iron Bowl. You could tell they didn't have that safety blanket to go to a lot of the time. And as for Georgia on defense, banged up defense. C.J. Allen still not playing at 100%, but is playing. I definitely respect that. Can this Georgia pass rush really get going and finally do something versus this Alabama offensive line? We saw in the first matchup in this year in Sanford Stadium, the Georgia pass rush was kind of a non-factor. Alabama could do whatever they wanted, especially on third down. Alabama was lethal on third down in Sanford Stadium earlier this year. I just believe that's not going to remain the case. I think you're seeing a different version of Ty Simpson right now, not in a good way, as I mentioned earlier. I think that third down number regresses a little bit to the mean, and I think Georgia is good enough to get this done still. The Georgia run game, I think, will be big too. Alabama can't really run the ball. Georgia can run the ball. I think that makes a difference, especially in these high-level conference championship games. So I think both of these teams are playing extremely banged up, maybe not quite all that they can be right now, though I do think Georgia's defense is on exceptional form. But I am going to take Kirby Smart to get another win over Alabama, his second as head coach of Georgia. Give me the Bulldogs in the SEC championship game. And now that takes us to Arlington for the Big 12 championship game. Number 4, Texas Tech. Number 11, BYU. We saw this game earlier in the year in Lubbock. College Game Day was there. BYU was not. It was a disaster for the Cougars. Texas Tech looked great all day long. They could have easily beaten them by more than they did. They had 5 field goals, could never finish in the red zone. If they are able to finish in the red zone on Saturday, this could get out of hand. LJ Martin has to get going. He is the engine that makes this BYU offense run. Had just 35 yards in the first meeting between these two teams. It's a huge issue. Parker Kingston and Chase Roberts combined for 104 yards in the first matchup. They have to be better. Bear Bachmeier has to be better. The BYU offensive line has to be better because Texas Tech has some dogs on the edge in Romello Height and David Bailey, 2 incredible players. You know about Jacob Rodriguez by now, super hyped up linebacker. He's a turnover machine. He might not be the most adept athlete, the most kind of freakish type player like you see at some of these other schools, like a CJ Allen, for instance. But dude just knows how to get the football, and that is incredibly valuable. I will say the Texas Tech offense, I would like to see a bit more from the receivers. Caleb Douglas and Reggie Virgil both kind of did nothing in the first game. Virgil did have one pretty long catch down the sideline, but I think still only ended up with like 48 yards or something like that. But Texas Tech, I would love to see them get the receivers going. The run game, I think, needs to do exactly what you did last time. Cameron Dickey had 121 yards and a touchdown, was exceptional the first time these two teams played. If Texas Tech has the same edge in rushing yards, you're going to get the same kind of game. And if Texas Tech finishes in the red zone, you're going to get an even more lopsided score. As much as I think BYU has gotten a raw deal from the committee so far, since their only loss is to a top 4 team and they're in their conference championship game, I think it's ridiculous they're left out of the field right now. But unfortunately, that's just the way it is. I think BYU is going to have to win this game to get in. Unfortunately, I don't think they do. Give me the Red Raiders in the Big 12 championship game. And now to the conference of doom and despair that is the ACC. Virginia versus Duke. Sure, why not? In lovely Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte, North Carolina, Virginia has already beaten Duke. They did it just a few weeks ago in Durham, 34-17. Despite losing the turnover battle, Virginia outgained Duke. They outgained Duke 540 to 255. Virginia dominated this first game. I don't think it goes any different. Duke only rushed for 42 yards in that game, and 43 of them were to Nate Shepherd. Yes, they had -1 rushing yards outside of Nate Shepherd. Disaster. Jamari Taylor was great the last time these two teams met, carried the ball 18 times for 133 and 2 touchdowns. Trell Harris was also amazing, 8 catches for 161 and a touchdown. Chandler Morris played well. We've seen him be a little bit of a gunslinger, have a tendency to turn the ball over a little bit. I kind of don't think that matters because you get a lot of the same from Darian Mensah. Virginia also was able to sack Mensah 4 times. Duke had no sacks of Morris. Virginia's just flat out better. They dominated Duke at Duke. I think on a neutral field, there's no reason to think that this game will go any differently. So give me the Virginia Cavaliers to win the ACC. Imagine saying that at the start of the season. And Duke at 7-5 will drop to 7-6 after their conference championship game. Lunacy in the ACC. Do something to fix that. Divisions. Or don't bring in Cal and Stanford. Anyway, conversation for another day, but let's move on to the American Conference Championship. This game going down tonight. Number 24, North Texas. Number 20, Tulane. This is essentially a college football playoff play-in game. Whoever wins this game will be in the CFP, and whoever isn't gets to go to whatever group of 5 bowl game they send them to. Would be North Texas so far has split games against USF and Navy, the 3rd and 4th best teams in this conference. Tulane didn't play either of them. Their 2 losses are at Ole Miss and at UTSA. And you may be thinking, how do you lose at UTSA? UTSA this year in the Alamo Dome, different animal. Don't ask me why, I do not know. For some reason, that has been the best home field advantage in college football this season. Meanwhile, UTSA went on the road to North Texas and got smoked 55-17. So you may think, well, North Texas split versus 2 of the other really good teams in this conference. They slaughtered a team that Tulane lost to. Seems like North Texas is looking good here. The issue here is Tulane, big run-the-ball team. Jake Retzlaff is a very good running quarterback, has 14 rushing touchdowns on the season, leads the team in rushing. Javon Gordon, Jamari McClure, both also talented runners of the football. And that rush-centric offense is going up against a North Texas running defense that is 127th in the FBS, giving up over 200 yards per game on the ground. Listen, if I was Josh Pate, we'd be popping the paper right now. That is a huge disparity, huge matchup going into this game. So I think that really tells you what you need to know. I'm taking Tulane in this one. I think that matchup just favors the Green Wave so heavily. These two defenses are both fairly similar overall. Tulane 51st in scoring, UNT 65th in scoring, Tulane 64th total, UNT 65th total. They're close together, but that part right there, that rushing defense for North Texas, I think could be where this falls apart. Both of these two coaches are on the way out. John Sumrall to Florida, Eric Morris to Oklahoma State. So even though you have coaches leaving, it won't be like, oh, well, one coach is leaving and the other. So, yeah, that whole storyline. But the Tulane defense, just keep Mestamaker and Caleb Hawkins in check. It's difficult. Hawkins is a monster. He has 23 touchdowns this year, is averaging 6.3 per carry, has only been held under 97 yards once in the last 6 games, has had 133 yards or more in 4 of those games, and 160 yards or more in 3 of them. His last 4 games, he has had 4 touchdowns, 5 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns, and 4 touchdowns. He might be the best running back in college football right now, which sounds insane, but I mean, he is insane. So I'm curious to see if Tulane can slow him down at all. Now, if UNT, even if their rush defense just absolutely collapses, it doesn't matter if Tulane goes out and their defense also can't do anything. So you could see a high-scoring game here. I just think that particular matchup with the North Texas run defense and what Tulane wants to do favors the Green Wave, so I'm going to take them. Next up, the Sun Belt, number 25, James Madison and Troy. Troy's 8-4. Troy lost to Old Dominion 33-0, which is a team JMU beat 63-27. That's really their big common opponent. They all have fairly similar results versus Louisiana, Georgia State, and Texas, the 3 other teams they both played. Troy's bounced between quarterbacks this season. Goose Crowder started the season, then had a shoulder injury, and then was out for a little bit. Now he's back. He's played fairly well the last 2 games. Both of these starting quarterbacks turn the ball over a bit too much for my liking. Alonzo Barnett, 20-7, touchdown interception. Crowder, 11-5. But Barnett adds a lot of rushing ability, 13 rushing touchdowns on the season. Wayne Knight has 8. Jordan Fuller has 5. JMU can really run the ball on you, and they can also throw it. JMU is 6th in rushing offense in the country. Troy, 94th in rushing defense. So another one of these huge disparity matchups. I think that really favors JMU. I'm going to take the Dukes to win this game. And ironically, the Dukes pulling for Duke as well, because if the Blue Devils win the ACC, that'll probably put JMU into the playoff. 3 more conferences to go here. We're going to hit the Mountain West first. UNLV at Boise State. This is another game with a crazy rushing offense versus rushing defense disparity. Boise 30 in rushing offense, UNLV 101st in rushing defense. The first time these two teams played, it was at Boise, which is where the conference championship game will be. Boise won that game 56-31. Boise ran for 294 yards in that game. Dylan Riley alone ran for 201. Boise lost the turnover battle in that game, still won that by that much. Outgained UNLV 558-476. I think you see a lot of the same things happen. Boise State runs the ball so effectively, and UNLV cannot stop the run at all. Give me the Broncos up in Boise, Idaho. Down to Conference USA now. How about Kennesaw State in just their second year in the FBS? They are in this conference championship game along with Jacksonville State, and this comes down to Cam Cook is too good, I think. Jacksonville State has the 3rd best rushing offense in the country. Kennesaw State, 96th rushing defense. I don't know what it is about these huge rushing offense to defense disparities in these G5 games, but it's just huge. That's not something you can just look past. These 2 teams have already played this season. Kennesaw State lost 26-35. Jackson State won. Kennesaw State, however, did outgain Jackson State 579-451, but a lot of that is because Kennesaw State turned the ball over 4 times, which means you're having to overcome more yards, do that way. Amari Odom threw for 0 touchdowns and 3 picks in that game, but in the 2 games since, he's thrown for 9 touchdowns and no picks, so maybe he's back on form for the Owls. We'll have to see. Gabriel Banyard's been a great player at receiver, former running back, really exciting player, really fun guy to watch for this Kennesaw State offense, but like I said, I think Cam Cook is just too much for Jacksonville State. I don't think Kennesaw State has a guy that can handle him per se, so give me the Gamecocks. In CUSA, and finally, our last bit of MACtion of the season, Miami of Ohio against the Broncos of Western Michigan at Ford Field. And the stupidest headline of the year, DeQuan Finn just quitting on his team early in November, to prepare for the NFL. Yeah, man, I'm sure you have a ton of NFL opportunity coming your way. No shade, obviously. Miami outgained Western Michigan the first time these two teams played, 408 to 316. They won the turnover battle. Western Michigan lost that game 17 to 26. I think that gets flipped. I'm taking Western Michigan in this one. DeQuan Finn played in this game the first time. It's going to be Thomas Gotkowski this time for Miami of Ohio, who has been good, played fairly well in wins over Buffalo and Ball State, but Ball State's awful and Buffalo's kind of mid in the MAC. So I think that Western Michigan is just better. Western Michigan, I really like Brock Lowry a lot. He's a very exciting player, fun play style. Has thrown for 1572 so far this year, 7 touchdowns, 2 picks, but he also has 875 rushing yards and 14 rushing touchdowns. So it's kind of like a diet version of what Jake Retzlaff's been doing at Tulane, similar play style, but less interceptions thrown. I think that helps them out. So I just think that's a little bit too good for Miami's defense to handle. They're not one of the best defenses in the country by any means. Even by G5 standards, they're not outstanding. So I think that combined with a quarterback who's only started 2 games so far this season, a lot of turnover within the program, I'm taking Western Michigan. I think the Broncos win the MAC this season. Remember that Western Michigan team with Corey Davis? They were so fun. That's not relevant at all. Just randomly remembered it. But those are your conference championship picks for this weekend. I'm really excited for these games. I think we got a lot of good matchups except the ACC because they're a disaster in every sense of the word in football this season. Imagine telling someone after Florida State beat Alabama in week 1, before that Clemson LSU game happened, right after Florida State beats Alabama. Imagine telling someone, yeah, Clemson, Miami, Florida State, none of them are going to be in the ACC championship game. It's going to be Virginia and 7-win Duke. I don't know. What are we doing? No one knows what we're doing. College football is becoming more and more of a mess, but it is what it is. Thank you guys for tuning in. Let me know what you think about these games, who you think is going to win. If you're a fan of one of these teams, let me know if you agree about what I said about your team, because that's something I always enjoy hearing is fans of a team debating on how their team is. I really enjoy those conversations. I think it's super fun because even though I try my best to know a lot about these teams, if one of you guys in the comments is like a UNLV fan, I don't know, maybe as in-depth as you on those guys, even though I know enough to, I feel like, analyze effectively. I really like talking with fans about it sometimes. It's always a blast. So let me know in the comments if that is you, but that is it for this one. I'll have a conference championship recap video coming out at the start of next week that's going to include the initial CFP bracket reaction, and then towards the back half of next week, I'm going to have a video grading every single college football coaching hire that's been made so far this cycle. Had a lot of people ask for that, so I will be doing that. I'm super excited for that, working on getting that together right now. But again, thank you guys for tuning in. If you did enjoy the video, do make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see y'all at the start of next week back here on State of the FBS.